The title of contestant number 4 oration is The Family of the Constitution.
Are there principles and beliefs that we would give our lives for? What about freedom and limited government? Are these principles worth dying for? Well, John Hancock, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin all thought they were. When they mutually pledged to each other their lives, fortune, and sacred honor, they believed in inalienable rights and that the power of the government is derived from the consent of the governed. These ideas were not the result of a conversation between our founding fathers. They did not hatch the ideas over a cup of acorn tea. No, in fact, Thomas Jefferson stressed the lack of originality of his concepts. In his letter to Thomas Lee on May 8, 1825, quote, "Not to find out new principles, which had never been said before, but to place before mankind the common sense of the subject, neither aiming at originality of principle or sentiments, it was intended to be an expression of the American mind." The roots of self-government and limited government are inherited from the long outstanding tradition of Western thought. Take John Locke, for example. He believed in a natural law that underlay all human interaction, that there is a right and a wrong, and that people, for the most part, know the difference. The rights of the people precede the state, both morally and historically. Locke believed that a government should pull its just authority from the consent of the governed. These ideas are fundamental to the emergence of our country. Hence, two principles may define the American mind and spirit. These two principles are freedom and limited government. These dearly held beliefs would be like parents to America. Parents that would have 3 children. The second of these 3 children is the United States Constitution. But this child cannot be fully understood without knowing his older sibling, the Declaration of Independence. So we must first take a quick glimpse at that great document. And the third child, I'm going to keep a mystery for now. I'm saving that one for later. And so the first of these children is the Declaration of Independence. And the time was ripe for greatness. Centuries of refinement to the ideas of humanity and the philosophical justification for a proper government, combined with England's unjust treatment of the colonists, culminating in the spark that was the Declaration of Independence, proclaiming the birth of a new nation founded upon self-evident truths. And so we have a revolution of ideas: freedom from tyranny, the right to pursue happiness, and for a people to govern themselves. People gave their lives to protect these natural rights. And they won. And then the question arises, what now? What now after we have gained our independence? Clearly, our newly found freedoms had to be protected, and the principles of self-governance had to be preserved through the generations. Sadly, history presents a repeated tragic story in which one tyrannical government is overthrown by the people only to be replaced with more tyranny. Our founding fathers could not let this happen to our young nation. And so these great parents of freedom and limited government had a second child. And that child is none other than the Constitution of the United States of America. It takes the heart of the Declaration and of the Revolution and codifies the principles into law. The American spirit had emerged during the war, but it's the Constitution that is the foundation of the American legal system, and it embodies the ideas of the natural laws that so many have given their lives for. It is the logical continuation of the Declaration. It takes those ideas of a natural order and true justice from the consent of the governed. If the Declaration is a spark, the Constitution is a torch. Okay, so So I said that the Constitution upholds the natural rights and limits the government. But how does it do this? It reigns in a government and protects the people from the clutches of tyranny. But what is tyranny? The answer is simple. James Madison states in the 47th Federalist paper that the accumulation of powers, legislative, executive, and judiciary, in the same hands, whether of a few or many, and whether hereditary, self-appointed, or elected, may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny. Whoa. Notice that Madison defines tyranny as just holding all the power, without even mentioning abusing it. Putting too much power into the hands of one group is definitely a formula for disaster. And so the principal way to avoid tyranny is for government to be at its very heart decentralized. The Constitution lays out the duties of the legislative, executive, and judicial branches distinct in their duties and checking each other. The second child, then, the Constitution, is a treasure map that provides the way to a great nation with a promising future. It offers the treasure of freedom. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom from tyranny. And so it appears we have the perfect family. These great parents of freedom, which embraces the inalienable rights, and limited government, that insists that a government derive its authority from the consent of the governed, and that it be kept small by the decentralization of the power. From these lofty parents, we have the Declaration of Independence proclaiming the birthday of a new and great nation. And the Constitution preserves the Declaration by providing the legal foundation upon which our nation is built. And so, there we have it. The perfect family, right? Wrong! This Constitution is worthless. Now the third child. The third child, the mystery child, must be the favorite child. And who is it? It is I, and it is you, and it is every American citizen. We may not be the author of this great document, but we must be its keepers. We do not preserve it in our hearts and minds. If we do not insist that our political leaders do the same, then the Constitution is just an old bit of parchment. We could bury it in a museum somewhere. Yes, the Constitution is old, but who would want to throw away a treasure map just because it's old? Nobody. Not if it leads to treasure. Often in life, there presents an easy way and a right way. It reminds me of a Charlie Brown comic strip in which Linus is at camp reading a letter from his sister Lucy. Dear Linus, it reads, how are you? I made you some cookies, but they looked so good that I ate them all. And then I thought I'd bake you a cake. But then I thought, why bother? Anyways, hope you're doing well. Your sister, Lucy. Ah, why bother? Like Lucy, our intentions can be good, but we take the easy way out. When it comes to preserving the Constitution, however, good intentions are not enough. Thomas Jefferson said, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. If we wish to be free, if we wish to enjoy the fruits the Constitution has to offer, we must be vigilant. We must thank our founding fathers who remembered us in the preamble to the Constitution when they wrote to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Let us, like them, think not just of ourselves. Let us hold the torch of the Constitution for the generations to come, as together we preserve the greatness of our nation. Thank you.
Time for contestant number 4, 9 minutes, 20 seconds, no penalty. Contestant number 4, your assigned topic.
Colonel Henry Lee, the father of Robert E. Lee, honored George Washington upon his death with these memorable words: "First in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen." Like our first president, the First Amendment holds a very special place in the hearts of the colonists back then, and it continues to do so for us today. The First Amendment was ratified on December 15, 1791. That's the first of 10 amendments that comprises the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights was originally intended for the Federalists to reconcile the Anti-Federalists into supporting the Constitution. The Anti-Federalists believed that their rights needed to be specifically listed in order to be best protected. The Federalists disagreed. James Madison, the Federalist, said that if you actually listed the rights, that would jeopardize the rights not specifically listed. On a personal note, although I have a deep respect for James Madison, I believe that time has shown the wisdom in the Anti-Federalists in listing these rights. Okay, so let's take a look at these rights specifically enumerated in the First Amendment. And that is freedom of religion, speech, press, the right to assemble, and the right to petition. I believe these are very important to understand so that we can use these, and I believe we have a duty to understand these, so we can use these to protect not just our own rights, but the rights of our fellow Americans. Freedom of religion. Freedom of religion is twofold. There's a freedom from and a freedom to. There's a freedom from the government forcing a national established religion upon us. This was originally just applied nationally, but it was extended to the states via the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. There's also a freedom to. We have the freedom to worship according to the dictates of our own conscience. Freedom of speech. What a blessing it is to be an American and have this freedom. That I may stand up before my peers, my school, and even you here today. That I may speak freely about my government. This is a priceless treasure. I believe this freedom is so important because it allows us to stand up not just for our own rights, but for the rights of our fellow Americans. Like Harriet Beecher Stowe speaking up, providing a voice to the slaves who were in Uncle Tom's Cabin. And Susan B. Anthony standing up for the rights of women. And Martin Luther King Jr. standing up for the civil rights of African Americans. Freedom of the press. I, like my fellow Americans, do not want the government to control the dissemination of information. History shows that one of the first things to go in a despotic government is this freedom. Mao Zedong, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, they all use this to create a cult of personality and force a phony image of themselves upon society. The right to assemble. This is a very important right that allows us to meet together and discuss our rights and perceived grievances. The right to petition. The right to petition, I notice that this enumerated right provides a nice model for students. I've noticed at my school that when students do not like a policy, this is a commonly used way to express this grievance that they feel. And, you know, at my school, when they do this, it doesn't always work. They'll write a petition and, you know, the principal might just say no. So it doesn't always work, but it's important for them to have a way to express this, a way to show we believe this and to present it. Now, again, these rights, these freedoms are so important, and we have to know them. We have this duty, a duty to understand them, because how else can we protect not only our own rights, but how else, like Harriet Beecher Stowe, how else, like Martin Luther King Jr., can we stand up, can we look out for each other, can we have each other's backs, and really protect these freedoms and these rights that we have so listed in the Constitution and the Declaration. Thank you.
Time for contestant number 4, 4 minutes, 2 seconds, no penalty.